Hi everyone, Joe Garth here, creator of Brushify.io. In this video, I'm going to show you how you can add your own custom materials to Brushify. The Brushify Landscape Auto material already comes with 11 paintable landscape layers. Those include all the common materials found in generic biomes, things like grass, desert, forest, snow, and also paintable extras like beaches, mud, and puddles. But if those aren't enough and you need a custom material for your project, it's actually really easy to add one. For this tutorial, I'm going to take a material from the Megascans library and I'm going to import it to the Brushify Landscape Auto material. We're then going to enable Nanite for a really cool displacement effect. Welcome to Brushify Bootcamp. Grab yourself a cup of tea and let's get started. You can follow this tutorial using any Brushify pack. That's because all Brushify levels use the same Landscape Auto material. Every single pack shares the same one. In the details panel of your landscape actor, you'll find that mi_landscape is assigned. The setup is always exactly the same, so it really doesn't matter which Brushify pack or level you use, you can still follow along with this tutorial. For this demonstration video, I'm going to be using the same scene that we created in the Brushify beginner tutorial, so if you're coming from that video, you can pick up pretty much just where we left off. And I'm just going to change the lighting to daytime so that we can see all the materials a little more easily. And this little patch of landscape here in the middle should be a perfect area for us to try out our new custom material. In this section, I'm going to show you the absolute easiest method for switching out textures on the Brushify Landscape Auto material. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint down a little bit of mud on the ground. So I'm going to go to the landscape and I'm going to go to the paint tab and scroll all the way down until I find mud. And then I'm just going to paint a little patch of mud here on the landscape. And as you can see, that's got a sort of mud material or sort of texture. I'm going to come out of that mode and we're going to click on the landscape, and in the details panel I'm going to find where it says landscape material right here, and I'm going to open that in the content browser, double click on the material to open it up. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom of this material instance, you can find a section called ZZ_textures. You'll be able to find sections like this for all the different Brushify paint layers. So if we go into the mud layer, we can switch out the diffuse textures for the mud. I'm just going to tick the box to the left to enable both of those. Then it will allow us to actually switch out this texture. So I'm just going to get a bit closer here, and I'm going to type in cliff. I'm just going to switch it out for a different texture. Cliff surface, and the same for the normals as well. Surface. Okay, so now we've actually got a sort of cliff texture instead of a mud texture on this material. So if all you're looking to do is just quickly switch out one of those textures, that's a really quick and easy way to do it. So now that we've done the sort of basic texture swapping method using the material instance, I'm going to show you a much more sort of robust method, which is to actually edit the shaders themselves. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to revert the change that we just made here. I'm just going to revert these back to their defaults and untick the parameters and hit save. So now we should have our sort of mud material back. So now I'm going to introduce you to the Brushify material setup. If you go into the content browser and we navigate to Content, Brushify, Materials, Landscape, this is the actual Brushify Landscape Auto material. You'll find that there's the mi_landscape, that's the material instance that you usually apply to the actual landscape actor itself. And then there's also the actual material file, m_landscape. Now if we open that up, this is the core of the Brushify Landscape Auto material. Now it does look very complicated and it can be a bit intimidating to sort of get your head around first, but all of the aspects of this shader are cleanly set up and commented, and everything is put into sort of quite neat little material functions. So one of the easiest ways to learn how to edit shaders in Unreal Engine is just to start doing something practical. In this case, we're going to go into the mf_landscape layers material function by double clicking it. And then you'll find that a new page will open. Now this is the sort of landscape layers material function where you'll find all of the different various materials within Brushify are connected to this landscape layer blend. So all we actually really need to do to add a new material to Brushify is simply to add another input in the layer blend right here. And there are two different layer blends. One of them is for the base materials and the other one is for the slope or sort of cliffs. Now I've gone ahead and I've actually downloaded a Megascans material, and this is what we're going to be importing. It's just a sort of basic kind of stone wall kind of material, but we're going to just take the normal map and the albedo, and we're going to bring that into the engine. So to import texture maps, it's fairly simple in Unreal. We're just going to go to the content browser, and I'm going to import these new two textures into content, Brushify, materials, landscape, and there's an actual textures folder. And this is where you'll find all of the different textures that are used in Brushify. So beach, cliffs, craters, deserts, dunes, everything. They're all inside of this folder. I'm going to make a new folder here, and I'm going to call it stone wall. And inside of there, I'm just going to import my newly downloaded Megascans textures. And to do that, I literally just go into Explorer, take the albedo and the normals, and I just drag and drop those across into Unreal Engine. And once those have imported in, I'm just going to save their names as something a little bit more understandable. So stone wall _d and t_stone wall _n. And this is the sort of typical Unreal Engine naming convention that I'm using here. So now that we have our two textures, we're going to create a new material function. So to do that, we're going to go back into the m_landscape, go back into mf landscape layers, and we're going to go and add a new input to our layer blend. So if you click on the layer blend, you want to hit add element, and that'll create this new layer non input here, which you can see. So how do we actually create one of these sort of little nodes here, these mf_ nodes that are right here? Well, that's actually pretty simple. We're going to just go into one of the nodes, for instance, like mf_mud, and we're going to open that up in the content browser. And what you'll find is that these are literally just material functions like any other. And you'll find in the landscape materials folder, you have a bunch of these different materials already set up. We're going to create a new one. We're going to call this new folder stone. And then we're actually going to copy from mf_mud. We're going to copy a couple of different things. We're going to take the normals and the roughness and the height of mf_mud, and we're going to copy all of those into the stone folder. And we're just going to rename all of these to stone. So wherever it said mud, we're now going to call it stone. And this one too. And the roughness, same as that. So where it was once mud, we now have all of it saying mf_stone. And now we can actually take those material functions, one of those, and we can just drag and drop that into the mf_landscape layers. Alternatively, you can type in the search material function and choose material function call from the list. So material function call. That's right here. And that will add one of those material function nodes, and you can choose the material function right here. So now we have mf_stone. We can actually hook that up to layer non. And I'm also going to make sure that I rename layer non in the details panel. I'm just going to rename that to stone. and then we're just going to hit save. Now the next step is we're going to go into the mf_stone, and you'll see that what we've actually got is we've actually still got the mud textures applied to this. So we want to go into where it says mud diffuse, and I'm going to change that to stone diffuse, and I'm going to change the material here to stonewall_D, which is our imported stone wall texture. And there you can see in the little preview, it's now using the stone wall texture. And I'm going to hit save. Now, one more thing that we need to do, in addition to this, is the actual normal map setup. And if you come to the right here, you'll see that all of the mud material functions are still applied. Now, we don't want to use the mud material functions. We actually want to use the stone ones that we just renamed and sort of duplicated. So I'm just going to type in here mf_stone. And I'm going to choose mf_stone normals. That's the one we just made. And I'm going to unhook the roughness and the height for now. And I'm going to go into the mf stone normals. Now inside mf stone normals, you'll be able to find the lowest texture parameter. It says mud normal. And what we're going to do is we're going to change that to stone normal. And we're going to change this texture input to stone wall N. Now you might be wondering sort of what these three different texture sample slots actually are. And I think one sort of easy way to explain that is if we actually go into the mud material instance, you can see this actually nicely commented here. So you can see that the top one here, this is for the sort of global far texture. The middle sample here is for the macro texture, and the one that we've been editing is the close texture. So we really want to leave the global and macro alone until we find, you know, sort of a decent matching global or macro texture for those. But for now, I think the mud global and macro textures should be just fine. So inside of here, we'll leave the other two the same, and we've added the stone normal map right here, and we can just hit save. Now I'm going to go to the landscape paint layers menu, and we're going to see if our newly created landscape layer has appeared. One thing to note is if you don't find your newly created material in the list, you can usually restart the level, and that will usually refresh this page. We can now find a new paint layer called stone. Now we're just going to apply a new weight blended layer info to that. We're going to call that stone layer info and hit save. And just make sure you save that in the content browser. And we're going to start painting down this stone paint layer. It might take a second to compile. There we go. You'll actually be able to see that we actually have now the stone texture already. One of the things I'm not really happy with here though is the roughness. It's still using some of the roughness settings from the mud texture, but unlike the old method, we actually now have the option to be able to sort of tweak this because we have full control in the shader system. So we're going to go back to MF landscape layers, and we're going to go to the mf_stone, and you can see here it says MF mud roughness. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually create a mud roughness for the stone. So I'm going to go in here and type in MF stone and choose MF stone roughness. That's the one we duplicated before. And we'll leave the height for now. Let's just do the roughness and focus on that. We're going to hook that output to the roughness input here and then hit save. Now to add roughness, sort of custom roughness map, you can see at the moment the mud roughness is still the one chosen. But what I'm going to do is actually import that texture from the Megascans library, and we're going to use that as our new roughness. So if I come again into our custom textures folder, so that's Brushify materials, landscape textures, stone wall. Now we only imported the diffuse and the normal texture, But what I'm going to do now, quickly go into my downloaded folder here. I'm going to grab this roughness map and I'm going to copy and paste that in. So now we've got the new roughness texture. We can go into the texture parameter here and we can add the new one. I forgot to actually rename that texture. I'm going to keep things clean. Let's rename that to T_stonewall_R. So the roughness map is now named properly, and let's just add that into the texture parameter input. And you can see that's now almost white because this is a stone wall. It's you know, very, very rough surface. It should be almost white. And then we're going to hit save. And let's have a look at the effect of that on the actual material. So now you can see that the roughness is a lot better, and the material's starting to look really quite realistic. One thing that's really handy as well is that you can go into the buffer visualizations and just check that everything looks correct. So that's the base color. We can also go into the world normals, and we can also look at the roughness as well. Roughness is very subtle. The only thing that's really missing at this point is displacement. In this section, we're going to be adding nanite displacement to our custom material. And the first step to doing that is we're going to go into the content browser, go into our textures folder. So landscape textures stone wall, the one we created earlier. And I'm actually just going to drag and drop from my downloaded Megascans files. I'm going to drag and drop the displacement texture into that folder. And I'm going to correctly rename that to T_stonewall H. Now we've got our displacement map texture. We can actually go back into mf_stone. And you can see at the moment we've got the mud height being specified in there, but we can change that to stone height. This is the one that we duplicated earlier. Then we can jump into that and change the close texture, the one at the very bottom, to stone wall H. So it's really just about switching the parameters. Hit save, go back into MF stone, and then hook up height to displacement, and we're going to hit save. And now we're going to take a look at how that looks. And at the moment you won't see any difference, but that's because we need to enable Nanite on the landscape. So to do that, click on the landscape, and we're going to click on enable Nanite and click build data. And this will enable Nanite by building a Nanite landscape mesh. Now you can see that on mine, this works pretty much straight away. Now in order for this to actually work at the moment, you need to add a custom console variable into your project. So to do that, you go to the content browser, go to your content folder, and go to show in Explorer. And you just want to go up one level to the root of your project folder. That's where you find your Unreal Engine project file and your content folder. And inside there will be another folder called config. Inside there is a little file called DefaultEngine.ini, and you want to open that in Notepad. Now there are a couple of little console variables that we need to add to this file. Where it says renderer settings, you'll want to add these two console variables, r.Nanite.AllowTessellation 1 and r.Nanite.Tessellation 1. I'm going to leave those in the description down below so you can copy and paste them into this file. Once you've done that, simply restart your editor and everything should work just like on mine. What's shown in this tutorial is just the surface level of what is possible with shader editing. Brushify was designed to create massive worlds with many complex materials. I really hope you found this tutorial useful. If you like tutorials like this, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any questions about Brushify, you can use our support email, support@Brushify.io. Thanks for watching. This is Joe Garth, signing out. Cheers, guys.